I guess they're working on it.
Kevin.
Yeah.
Kevin, would you be playing or should I play? Just let me know.
Uttaranchal University offers a range of courses from 12 schools such as Uttaranchal Institute of Technology, Uttaranchal Institute of Management, School of Liberal Arts, School of Applied and Life Sciences, Uttaranchal College of Nursing, amongst many others. So people registering early can get to stay in this beautiful campus itself. Later, the stays will be arranged at the nearby hotels also. Playgrounds, well-equipped libraries, hostels. So it's a glimpse of the entire campus. You would also get a beautiful glimpse of the hills around. You can visualize Missouri from here. So you're not able to see it in the video, but you would be able to see it once you visit the campus. September, October are the best suited months to visit Uttarakhand, so to say. The aftermath of the rainy season and the lush forests, so it's beautiful then. Also, it's the overall experience that one remembers. So staying at the venue would definitely enhance that. So thank you so much, sir, for playing the video. And we at Uttaranchal University are happy to act as a host to this conference. Now, English being a global language today, the importance of learning the language has been the center of discussion since a long time. This conference will also offer deliberations on this topic that stand its relevance in the contemporary world. The topic chosen for the conference is English for Global Citizenship, Multiple Teaching Acts, and Learning Experiences. The webinar today will be dedicated to a discussion on the themes and sub-themes of our conference. To address the audience, we have with us Ms. Anusha Ramanathan as the guest speaker today. Ms. Anusha Ramanathan is currently an assistant professor and has earlier worked as curriculum consultant in the Center of Excellence in Teacher Education at TIS, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, I'm sorry for the fumble, Mumbai. She's the academic coordinator for CET short-term programs. She's a co-principal investigator for Connected Learning Initiatives, a UNESCO and OEC award-winning action research initiative funded by Tata Trusts and co-led by TIS and MIT USA. Ms. Anusha has years of teaching experience also. She teaches and guides students of MA English, Mass Media, and MBA across colleges of the University of Mumbai and other universities. She has worked as a research assistant, course coordinator, content writer, editor, teacher trainer, and corporate trainer in her career. Her two recent publications are Language Education, Teaching English in India, published by Routledge, and the UNESCO State of Education Report, India, No Teacher, No Class. We welcome you at this conference, ma'am. We feel privileged to have you amongst us today. Now, before I hand it over to you, ma'am, I would like to specify that to all the participants that please write down any queries that you have in the chat box. Ma'am will try to answer as promptly as possible. And if there are any questions that are still left unanswered, they will be addressed at the end of the session. Also, a feedback link will be shared towards the end of the session. Please fill the feedback form as soon as the session is over. We can now proceed for today's session. Over to you, ma'am. Please take over the session.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Anubhuti. And I look forward to being there and visiting your beautiful campus. It was lovely and vast, and hope we also get to play alongside, exploring intellectual elements. Thank you for showing glimpses of all the cricket and the football and the basketball that comes in. So it's wonderful. Yeah. And yes, it's lovely. So I just wanted to start off with the fact that I hope all of you have seen that there is a new ELTAI site. There is an old site, of course, that's still in use, the old ELTAI.in. And then there is another revamped site, which actually gives you a lot of information about the conference. And this tells you the themes, the sub-themes, the schedule is put up. Now you can actually go on and check the schedule. Our 11th, 12th, all of the days are kind of put up. So you could check all of it. And we are looking forward to the fact that we have many paper presentations, and we hope that y'all will be the ones who make this conference really, be a wonderful experience for all of us, because we look forward to all the ideas that you bring, that you would like to share. And the very idea of this entire seminar, the conference, and this web series that we are now creating as a pre-conference webinars is to ensure that we address the topics that you have or the concerns that you have regarding the theme and the sub-themes. They are indicative, not necessarily the only bucket in which your papers could fit. So this is just an introductory session, and we have 2 more webinar series that will come up to address more of your queries, which may be more streamlined towards, say, English language teaching or literature teaching that comes in. Yes, so thank you, Basla Umehani. I'm sorry if I'm getting these names wrong, but yes, you can talk about female romantic poets. The idea is that this is an English language teaching conference, and we are looking at global citizenship as a theme, as Anubhuti pointed out in the beginning, and the act of teaching and learning experiences. So how you weave in your topic, say, for instance, of female romantic poetry, into either global citizenship, which it very well fits in with gender concerns, with teaching acts, and with learning experiences, and or with learning experiences, will be how you can frame and bring it to the conference. The theme is really outlined out there for you. So these could be English poets in translation. They could be poets from regional or varied around the world, different poets who are non-English, who have written not in English, but they're available perhaps in English literature in translation. Or you could be making an argument for why in translation. And those could be the kinds that you're looking at in terms of the conference theme. So how you fit it in will be the kind of abstract and paper concept that you have. So I started off by answering a question, and that's, I think, one of the ways to go. So please feel free to jump in with your queries and bring in more in, how we can help you. This is the entire conference is this entire webinar series is based on how we can help you. For how to write an abstract, we have two specific webinars planned, scheduled, and we'll come to that. The sub-themes which are on the site as well, I have just put it out here in case we were running out of time and sometimes internet bandwidth does not allow, but you can go to the theme on the home page and you could look at these sub-themes. And these are, as I said, indicative. They are not necessarily the only sub-themes around which you work. For instance, you do not see on the sub-themes anything that says about female romantic poets, right? And you would have to then see how you're fitting that in to the context of multiple acts of teaching and learning experiences, and how it weaves towards a global citizenship, primarily using English as a medium that comes in, right? Why are we saying that this is not limited? Because we very well understand that the target audience profiles of all we want to attract and listen to and learn from and learn with in this conference are going to be, of course, researchers, because we do expect articles that focus on research, but they could be coming from a variety of perspectives. They can be early bird, they can be students who want to write and share experiences and the newness that you have come across. We understand that students, when they write, may not be coming up with fresh new knowledge. You may be coming up with reviews, you may be coming up with something that you learned as a classroom experience and would like to share your reflections on. It may be something that you came across and you wanted to study and explore more in detail and are writing that out as a paper, which talks about the theme, which talks to the theme also. And it may be that you are also, sharing ideas of how to teach. It may be that your B.Ed students sharing ideas how to teach. So you could be students as early researchers. You could be actual research PhD scholars, researchers who are independent consultants. You could be from the NGO sector. You could be from out of school and after school and non-formal sector activists who are engaged with teaching English or are concerned about how English taught or English literature is taught, English language is taught, or how it is viewed and how it is used. You could be, and definitely, we do hope, large numbers of school teachers and higher education institution teachers, college teachers, teacher education institution teachers who may be coming in as faculty who share their experiences of your own classroom practices, your own research that you already conduct as part of your everyday work, and how that connects to the theme. And you could be administrators or policymakers who are again trying to understand how this can be used. You could be publishers, content creators, digital users and private players, funders who may be interested in trying to understand and share with us your own experiences or your concerns about English, and especially English for global citizenship. Today, English is a link language. It is considered a link language which connects to many parts of the world. It is an aspiration and it is motivation. But there is always a culture versus um, culture, there is this cultural propriety of our own language versus our languages versus English sometimes, which is looked at as a foreign language. But the question is that in today's times in India, can we think of English really as a foreign language? Even as early as the 1970s, and if you look at Raj Kachru's concentric circles, three circle model that he talks about, in India, he placed India as English as a second language home. He placed some European nations as English as a foreign language home, and places like Russia. But English in India was placed as a second language because we seem to understand English. We seem to use English words in our languages. We seem to be exposed to English at different points. But is it the case all over India? And how do we view English in that sense? And then how do we then teach English is some of the concerns that really we would like to explore. We hope that you will share with us your own insights. So what are the purposes of why we teach English? And therefore, we talked about NEP 2020. It also addresses policy and how the mother tongue has been propagated as the medium of instruction in early years at least. And how does English then change the role or how it is viewed? State governments are bringing in English as a compulsory medium in some of the states. How does that play out in relation to NEP 2020's recommendation that mother tongue be used more often, at least state languages be used, if not mother tongue, in uh, in learning, because it helps cognitive development? What is it, mother tongue versus English, or is it mother tongue and English, or is it just English? Are concerns and questions that perhaps you would like to explore and throw light on. Context in India, especially with respect to learners, learning situations, and teachers and teacher situations, are things that we thought could be explored in more detail. How does that matter? As we come across varied boards that deal with English very differently and have different objectives for English, you may want to understand what are these kinds of contexts in which English is taught. What are the reasons and the objectives of teaching English? For instance, the IB board is very different. The IGCSE and the IB together, if I put them together. Cambridge school is a varied thing. There are many progressive schools in, Krishnamurti schools and Waldorf schools, etc., which teach English very differently. There are curriculums that adopt English as a medium, but not English as a subject. There may be, especially in primary grades, where English may be taught through other subjects, right? And is that a viability? What about the CBSE board and the ICSE board and the state boards, and how English is as a first language or a second language or a third language in terms of textbooks to outcomes, objectives, methods, approaches all change? What does material selection look like? How does a learner context in a rural area compared to an urban area with more or less exposure to English? How do we use this, leverage this, approach this in the classroom? Some of these are questions that we would really like to understand through this conference. And we would love to learn from you what your own experiences have been. What are the different kinds of methods we can use? Not just in the school, there are many actors who do in-school curricula as well, and teachers who are teaching, but there are also a lot of out-of-school activities that happen with street children, with non-formal education that occurs with bridge courses that take students through. If they have dropped out of school, but they still want to get into, say, college, they can do bridge courses for 6 months, NIOS curriculum, the National Institute of Open Schooling curriculum. They could be colleges where perhaps students are not studying English in college, but they are going to a tutorial class to learn English. These could be also out of school children who want to go in and learn English. So what are these experiences? How are the models learned? What is the method? What is the objective? Do we really have to borrow from uh, Western concepts all the time, or are there indigenous methods that also are upcoming? Are there other authors and activists and references that we can look at as models of how language learning and teaching occurs? And what are the variations that occur in the present generation, which is very digitized to a large extent, thanks to COVID, especially so, which is learning memes. So, how do we use some of these experiences and engage the learners? Are the topics in the thematics? I have actually tried to just push some of the topics and sub themes that you see on our site and connected them more to the elements in terms of where we are going here. And as you know, uh, Basla pointed out, whether literature could be expanded upon. So the third conference that we have, which a colleague of mine, Nishevita Jayendran, will be taking, particularly deals with what could be the literature themes and how to write an abstract. But I've just put in the fact that we could be problematizing three things. One is, what is literature in the language classroom look like? Is it that we are teaching literature to teach language? Or is it literature for literature's sake? When we go back to the main theme that we have, English for global citizenship, multiple teaching acts and learning experiences, how do we then connect that to literature as a thematic of whatever topic that you want to weave yourselves around? For instance, one of the topics listed on the sub-theme is contemporary Indian literature. So how does that talk about representation, which is a Global Citizenship Act? How does environment and peace as topics and narratives in different discourses play out as contemporary topics that represent global citizenship, global concerns, global competencies that we need to deal with? How would the teaching act and the learning experience change the way that the student is engaging with, reflecting on, with the literature, but also building and developing competencies, not just to uh, comprehend the text, but also act on it, critically think about it, reflect on it, and be able to take action for it. What could be the various pedagogical approaches that we have to the different literary genres? Are they uniform? No, I think we have agreed on that. But what if you take up a particular genre? What would your experience, your research, your narration be on how to teach that genre? Um, and developing, what kind of competencies would we develop if we are teaching literature? These could be some of the thematics. There is another which talks about cultivating a reading culture. We have in schools, and Samagra Siksha has definitely brought in certain rules and guidelines of how reading for joy is very important, especially in primary education. But ELTAI believes, and ELTAI will share with you during the conference as well, entire activity of India Reads. And we will be, focusing a lot on reading for joy. So we would like to get from you ideas on how we can cultivate reading culture among different age groups and how we can focus on these elements in reading through and focusing on strategies. What are the reasons for reading reluctances? Also, digital devices. How do devices affect reading? What kind of material selection? How we can design activities around these? All of these could be brought into those topics. The saga of digital and or online education, not always the same, is should we, can we, how do we digitize English language learning, which is about communication, spoken, and what kinds of activities are around there. It could be your own experiences, your own material development activities, or it could be you could research on something that focuses on how this helps. Is there in-person learning versus online learning or remote learning? Are there differences? What kind of differences, and how can we leverage these differences to become opportunities, or will they remain challenges? are the questions that we want to grapple with. Online resources for learning English, what could they be? How you explore and review some of these could be thematics that you share with us. Social media is not necessarily just online education, but how we can leverage digital multimedia experiences and how they can become either challenges or opportunities, depending on how we use them. And how could, for instance, a meme culture be leveraged in a language learning classroom? Or how could or Instagram story making be part of an English language classroom? Or any other such of how multimedia can be woven into student activities and projects, etc. And that brings me to assessment, something that the subject does not necessarily cover immediately, but is definitely something that we look forward to, as what would be competencies, what kind of outcomes do we see in the language classroom, and how are these contexts of use? How can assessment be used formatively, summatively? What are policies around these? What are the practices around these? What are the challenges around these? These could be topics that you think about and share, with the focus on solutions if possible, but also just reflective questions are very helpful in getting us all together and thinking through what could be done. And for that, I will definitely answer at this point Pradeep Mohapatra's question that he asked about 5 minutes ago. Can I prepare an abstract and teach tribal students English, and what is, and that it is full of challenges? Sure, you could, but again, to articulate what are these challenges, Pradeep Xavier will be taking another session on ELT abstract writing. So if you need specific help on how abstracts need to be formulated, there is another webinar in store for you. But we would love to hear those contexts and learners, and especially the the less spoken about and the less researched. And tribal students are definitely an area of concern, because some of their languages are not in scripts. When we talk about getting them to learn, they may not have had enough exposure to English in their own context. And so they may have fewer words. Even words like traffic signal and telephone may not be words that they are very familiar with, the way that slum children in, say, Mumbai may be familiar with. So definitely articulating some of these are very helpful for audiences to understand and learn. Your abstract is something that will be shared. It is published. If you have attended ELTAI conferences prior, you know that they get published. Your abstracts are those windows, small windows, to help us peek in, to understand what you're talking about, ideas that you want to share with us, and the world that you want to represent to us. And we would love to know them. So think of your abstract as something that will crystallize in 150 words or so. What really you are trying and aiming to achieve with your paper and your presentation. So hopefully you are able to tell us what is it that you will talk about, and you will tell us exactly the glimpse of the world that you want to give us. That's what the abstract is. Think of it as the window. So the cleaner it is, the less dirt there is and less ambiguity there is. It helps us to peek into a world that we don't know anything of. So please help us understand these challenges in these tribal contexts. Help us understand where is this tribal belt located. Help us understand. And I'm just giving this as an example since there was a question put up. And that will help us also, understand why and how to attend your papers. Most of us figure out whether we will want to attend your paper reading based on the abstracts, of course. So all of this will help. And then how is assessment therefore becoming a problem or a challenge, and how can it be used? And the use of AI, as in, is it a challenge? Higher education institutions will definitely have a challenge. School education also has a challenge. Is plagiarism acceptable? What is plagiarism in the world of ChatGPT and Bard and Bing and everyone coming in with their help. Um, is using Grammarly an ethical practice in English language teaching when I want students to become, say, content editors and copy editors? Should I allow them to be using Grammarly to identify copy editing mistakes? If I'm a journalist, what should, if I'm trying to teach competencies for skills such as journalism, how do I use, or do I allow use of Quillbot and Grammarly? These could be questions of AI in assessment that really, sometimes bothers many of us, I think. And so they could be topics that you deal with. Policy and practice, NEP has been referred to, UNESCO guidelines, the NCF documents that are coming into vogue, and state curriculum framework documents that are there. Higher education institutions own grappling right now with redesigning courses to suit NEP's four-year curriculum framework and the entire credit structure, of which English language teachers are particularly affected because communication activities have come across even in science and commerce. So how does it affect the practice as a result of policy changes? What is the privatization versus government and globalization and government security? How do we think about these? How does funding impact jobs, security, learning, etc.? Is it great for us to have more privatization? Is it good for us to have more government control? What are the experiences and challenges in particular contexts, in school education or in higher education? It really is, or even in out of school kind of models like Byju's and Kahoot, other kinds of instruments coming in. What are the focus on skills, and how does English talk to this? Because there is a lot of movement and policy on skilling Indian citizens. Is English a skill? Is it something that we train people in, or is it going to be something that works on them as a developing them to be a global citizen? How do we bridge this? There is this fine balancing act, and others, and many more. As we said, it is based on y'all talking back to your abstract being able to correspond with English for Global Citizenship, multiple teaching acts, and learning experiences. So how you talk to this theme is very important. I did have this question, though some of you have asked this question already. What would you like to write on? And as you have already pointed out, Rakhi does ask if I'm correct in selecting the topic if I take on Indianization of English. Sure, Swati. I would say there is no one Indianization of English, but that's my opinion. But definitely, Indian Englishes are definitely recognized, and you can explore the theme and write on it. I'm sure Xavier would love to have more questions on it when his webinar comes in. I'm not going to address questions on certificate for the webinar attendance and other elements. I'm just going to focus on recording of the webinar. Yes, you will get the recording of the webinar. We'll share it online. But those are not questions. But if there are other questions and doubts that you have, we can address them as to how you would like to write on. I would just like to engage, since we are on the topic. We have 2 forthcoming webinars. Both are pre-conference, meant to help you to write an abstract or present a poster. So what's the difference between a poster and an abstract is the fact that an abstract will lead to a full paper presentation where you will be presenting a paper, and the poster is something that you put up maybe as an A3 size element, which comes in to the, which you will present, and will have many of these points, but they are more pointers. So think of a 5 to 6 slides of maximum, of information that you're able to kind of place on an A3 poster or an A2 poster size and print it and then be able to present it. And so those are basically very short presentations. That is one, and the other is the abstract. currently we are accepting ideas for both of them. And there will be the next webinar, which Dr. Xavier Pradeep Singh will be taking up on, which is going to be on the next Wednesday, 19th July, and it will be focusing on English language teaching topics. So some of you who are asking, Kim, what will be the topics that we can write on, and some topics that we can suggest. I think I've given some, but you can also ask for more in that conference. And there's another in literature, which is going to be conducted by Dr. Nishevita Jayendran from CET TIS also, but she's going to be focusing on writing literature abstract and full paper. And so that's going to be the focus there. Yes, Faiz, I think the one who has asked, what other kind of topics? Please look, the chat is rich with the topics. The NEP course design in English for liberal arts program, challenges in there. Please, yes, by all means, that is a great topic. And especially because you must concern and connect it with the act of how it also leads to a global citizenship element. And in terms of British English, American English, Indian English, global English, when you're looking at it, I don't even know whether that's whether, Lawrence, you're giving us, and at how and at what level can be integrated in teaching English, all these different Englishes, and what is the role of English grammar. If that's a topic that you want to write on, by all means, again, yes, definitely it's something that can be considered. But then also, how does that connect, going back to something that we are really concerned about, as what does a global citizenship mean? And how does that really work in? What is it that global citizenship means? Does it mean that you are a globetrotter and that you go around the world? Or does it mean that you are a citizen who is concerned for the world? Does it mean that you stay in your pocket in a rural place, maybe in Uttaranchal, and maybe in Missouri, just to take it off with the Uttaranchal University, and you are then reaching out to the world through your ideas, and what does it really mean? And are you concerned about the rest of the world because you're, seedlings or something that you're doing? So see whether you can connect to that. But these are the two webinars that will be forthcoming. I am conscious of time, so I'm going to go to the other part of the process. You have, and we'll come back to the questions that you have. Today is 12th of July. Until the 15th of August, you have time to submit your proposal for the posters and or the abstract. You have early bird registration, which is available on the site. If you just click on registration and the registration form, you will be able to look at it. You have submission. The submission guidelines are very much clearly given. They will, all abstracts, as we said, will appear in the conference program. And therefore, you will be, they must give us the worldview of what you want to say. There are certain elements of criteria that are given. There is a notification of abstracts that is going to happen by 31st August. There is a last date for early bird registration, which is 15th of September. There is the last date for regular registrations, which is 5th of October. Post this, you have on-the-spot conference dates, which you can come in and register. But obviously, if you didn't have a paper to submit, or even if you had a paper to submit and you submitted a paper, but you did not pay the fees, you can choose to come in on 11th to 14th and have on-the-spot registration. The full paper post the conference is going to be till 31st of October. And why have we kept it as till 31st of October for post the conference is that there are times when you get feedback, and that feedback is extremely beneficial to, post these elements that come in. They really help you to understand how and why some points that you may have skipped out on, or something that you did not explain too clearly, could be there. So you have time till 31st of October to submit your full paper. ELTAI has certain other magazines that also journals that are there that could be used for publication, and we do not promise that they will be published, but that is something that's an option available. So you can check out the guidelines and accordingly write your full paper. So that's where the full paper is, but the final poster must definitely be visible and be shared. And that is why I had kept it here. Must be shared on 11th to 14th October, because you will have to display the poster if there is a poster submission that you're making. And all of these are your early bird registration. Of course, we are giving you till 5th of, if we go on to the date, we have notification of abstracts till by 31st of August, primarily 31st of August. There may be certain comments and reviews that you may get that you may want to redo and state, but we will have to take them on board in this manner, right? And then you have your early bird registration. So I wanted to just share these elements. Yeah, I think, sorry. Yeah. Anubhuti, I think over to you, because the conference will be in an offline mode. Yes. It's not going to have hybrid. We do want you to visit the place, and there is a lot of information on the site about places to visit, the travel information, what kind of conference that you can look at and where all you could go around. So see this, explore the site for now, and then hopefully you will explore the actual site of Dehradun in person in October. Anubhuti, there was one more video, I think, that...
Ma'am, we'll play that at the end.
Yeah, sure.
I'll specifically ask for it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much, ma'am. You addressed the themes and sub-themes of the conference. Thank you for throwing light on what, why, and how's related to the conference, on highlighting issues such as if English is a skill, or how will it or can it contribute in achieving the global citizenship that we are talking about. Also on throwing light on how wide the scope of this conference is. So also you have been very deft in, giving a look at the chat box also and answering the questions. I'm sure that whatever the other queries are, there are numbers specifically mentioned on the brochure. So people can, they can specifically choose the number relating to that query, and always contact them and ask them about any query that they have. All right.
Yeah,
So,
just to address the one last question that was there, is it Scopus?
Yes,
it is not Scopus necessarily, not all of them, but you can please look up the journals in the old ELTAI page, and a lot of information is already given there. So there are journals that you could look at. So just wanted to share that. Sorry. Because they are reviewed and some of these are UGC. Yes, sir.
The journal is UGC Care indexed.
Yes.
And we are also trying to collaborate with Scopus Index Journal. Very soon, we'll get that information also.
So
thank
great.
You.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for answering.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I extend my gratitude to you, ma'am, the guest speaker for the day. So the session has been enriching, and I'm sure that the participating members must have gained an idea of the themes and sub-themes of the conference. So before we end, there is another video that was made as a promotional video for the upcoming conference. I myself am in the video and would like to invite all of you on behalf of the School of Liberal Arts, Uttaranchal University, for this conference. Please have a look at the video. Sir, would you please play the video now? Not this one, sir, the other one. Technical glitches of an online session.
Yeah.
I'm sure sir is finding the
The
video.
better my salary. English is slowly going to destroy our languages, our culture. But it is English that opens the doors of the world to me. All these questions keep plaguing our minds constantly. Is there any objective answer to it? The 17th International and 53rd National Annual Conference of ELTAI invites answers to these questions. Uttaranchal University is happy to serve as a home for such deliberations from scholars across the nation and abroad. We invite you to be a part of this conference that is intended to serve as a milestone in the field of academia. We at Uttaranchal University eagerly await you. Register soon.
Thank you, sir, for sharing that video. Also, I'm posting the link of the feedback form. Please fill it as soon as the session is over. I would again like to extend that invitation to visit Uttaranchal University. We are all eager to have you all here. Lastly, I would like to make a special mention of the technical team for handling these online sessions deftly. It is because of you that these sessions are a success. And finally, to all the members for being a part of this program and for their contribution in making this webinar a success. Please fill the feedback form according to the category that has been mentioned in the chat box. So the category that you fit in, please click on the link and fill the feedback form. So thank you everyone. Please join the next session, next webinar that we have lined up. Thank you for today.